Hello, everybody. This is Dwight with Composite FX. We always refer to ourselves as CFX, but we're coming to you with another video. We had a video that we dropped a couple weeks ago on trim tabs, and we thought we'd do a follow-up and maybe a series of videos of how Composite FX does things. So the first thing we wanted to address on this video was recently there's been a few YouTube videos and TikTok videos that have been dropped on the world's cheapest helicopters and ultralights and things of that nature. And we have found, I've watched two of them that just dropped recently within the last 2 months. One of them has a Mosquito turbine flying, and they make the claim that the kit can be bought for $50,000. Well, that is not true. It's been a very long time, if ever, that kit has ever gone for $50,000. Another one that I watched where it talked about a helicycle that the kit sells for $458,000, which I'm pretty sure that never happened either. But what we wanted to address with that is all of these videos that get dropped. I mean, they have some pretty good flying content and stuff, but when it comes to pricing and stuff, always refer back to the websites of the company that they're talking about and get the pricing from there. Stop a lot of confusion there on a lot of made up stuff there. But anyhow, we wanted to address that. The second thing that we wanted to talk about today was the video that we dropped, Adam dropped a couple weeks ago about the trim tabs. There was a couple of things we wanted to address to give you a little bit better idea of what was going on. The first thing I wanted to talk about is show you a blank of the trim tab. So I don't know if you can see that from knife's edge or not, but when we edit this, if we can't, we'll do some close-ups on it. Thing we're going to try to address a little bit about was the video that Adam dropped a couple weeks ago about the trim tab installation on Scott Langley's turbine, which we want to give a shout out to Scott Langley. It's Flying Navy is his YouTube channel. If you get a chance, check that out. He was gracious enough to let us use his bird to do the testing on. So the trim tabs, I wanted to show you a blank. So the blanks are made out of the same materials the blade skins are. It's 035. And you can see we made a jig to notch the top section of it, and then they're bonded together with the same bonding agent that the entire blade is glued together with as well. So this is a blank prior to it being machined. So what we end up doing is machining this trailing edge down to 3/4 of an inch. This edge that goes over the blade, that gets machined down to 5/8, about half an inch, I'm sorry, half an inch, and then it fits over the blade. If you look here, you can see how it slides over the trailing edge of the blade or the reflex. So trim tabs traditionally are set at 70% of the length of the blade, measuring from the root going out. That's where the effectiveness is the most. You get out further than that, you get into turbulent air because there's vortices. The air will flow off the bottom of the blade and it'll get into a swirl. So they're less effective the further you go out. And when you go in further, obviously the blade is turning slower in that circle, so they're less effective there. So 70% is the number on our blade. It's going to be 77 inches from the root, and that's where we place the blade. And when the blade is put on, it's bonded on as well as a mechanical fastener. So the bonding that we use on that is a methyl methacrylate. It's if some of you are familiar with it, methyl methacrylate is the same glue that actually bonds the entire aircraft together. It has a very high tensile strength, and you can actually glue rubber to wood, wood to steel, aluminum to aluminum, steel to steel. It's very, very well used glue on many, many, many different products. It comes from the acrylate family. Other acrylates you may be familiar with is the fillings in your teeth. That's an acrylate. Super glue is also an acrylate. So it all comes from that same family. Very powerful glue. So once it's bonded on, then we put 3 rivets. They're actually pressure rivets that go in there as well. So we have a mechanical fastener as well as a bonding agent on that. The last thing you want is to have one of these babies come off in flight because things get ugly after that. So the use for trim tabs now, we have not had to have trim tabs, especially with the new blades that we've gone with. So Scott's is the first case that we've ever done or we ever felt that we needed for. So there's only 2 reasons really to have trim tabs. First reason would be if you have you're tracking in track at hover. In other words, both blades are coming across in the same plane at a hover. But then when you go into ETL or cruise, say at 80, 85 miles per hour, all of a sudden they come out of tracking. So the tips of the blade are doing that. So the only way really you can get them to have a comfortable cruise would be is to make them track by adjusting your pitch lengths in cruise, but then your hover is going to be a little bumpy. So what the trim tab does is allow you to make it smooth with your pitch lengths in a hover, but then if it does come out in cruise, you can adjust the trim tabs to pull it back in. So the trim tabs really only start to make effect in cruise. So you get the best of both worlds there. In the Mosquito, it's pretty small, and with the new blades, it's pretty rare for that to happen. In fact, since we've done the new blades the last 3 years, I personally have not run into a set yet that we felt we needed them to where the tracking went out in that scenario. But it is plausible because no two blades ever fly alike. And you'll notice that all the big guys, if you look at Robinson or Bell Jet Ranger, Sikorsky, they all use trim tabs for the exact same reasons. So if you find yourself in that scenario, you can contact us about the trim tabs and we might be able to help you out there. So the trim tab itself is only 4 inches long. That's all it's needed. It's been very effective on Scott's machine. We have no reason to make them any larger or any smaller. Obviously, the larger they are, the more drag that is there. And the more drag there, the more power, the more fuel consumption, and everything goes on from there. So the way, once they're installed, that we set these blades is a tool that we've made here. And this tool is made so the trailing edge of the trim tab will actually slide into the tool, and then we can pry up, bend the tab up, or bend the tab down. So what you're doing when you bend that tab up or down, you're changing the center of pressure on the blade. So in Scott's case, you can go back and look at the video. You can see that before we adjusted the trim tabs, his collective pressure was actually negative pressure. So he could take the machine up to 100% and let go of the collective, and actually it would real slowly, eventually it would leave the ground with no effort from him at all. We don't consider that a safe parameter. So we could actually take these trim tabs, set them both at the same level first, and verify that the tracking is true. Then we can start adjusting them just a little at a time. And we actually take a measurement from when we stick the tool on there. And each time we bump it and bend it, we'll actually take a measurement off the leading edge of the blade so we can keep them both the same as they go up in that scenario. So that second scenario is if you have too much collective or not enough collective pressure, you can use trim tabs to adjust that. And in that case, you would be bending both trim tabs, where the previous scenario, you would be bending one trim tab to get the cruising tracking into the realm that you're looking for. So it's a very effective way to make the blades fly smooth at cruise or change your collective pressure. But that's really the only two scenarios that would you use it. If you don't need them, there's no reason to put them on. But it is just another tool in the toolbox you can use to smooth the bird out or change your collective pressures.